Hello and welcome to the Overton Audios podcast. My name is Eamon Longman, and where is he? Connor Chadwick is not here today. Yes, today it's just me. Connor isn't in the right headspace. I think to do something of this long form, kind of sitting down, talking, recording it. At the moment, which is okay, which is fine. Everyone gets those. Everyone has those moments in their life where they are just not up for it, you know? They're just, and I think it's very important to be able to say that you're not up for it. To be able to sit down and look at yourself and look at yourself where you are mentally, and to be able to say, look, today I'm just not up for this. I'm not feeling in the right place to be able to do this today. Because mental health is important, you know, and you need to look after that, and you need to look after yourself. And so that's exactly what Connor's doing today. But we still have a podcast to do, which means you have solo Eamon for a month. Damn, look at that. I nearly said a swear word there, and then I thought no, because my mum will be listening, and I don't want to swear because she'll tell me off. On today's podcast, Connor will be talking with Chelsea Lagan and George Guidera on the final Crimson Hunter volume. And then he'll be talking with George Guidera later in their new segment, Big Finish Discussions. Special thank you to our Patreons, Anya Coyle, Peter Scott, TT Productions, Chelsea Lagan, Delta FX, and Joe Eddings. Yeah. So that's what we've got coming up today. Obviously, Connor is still in the podcast, but he's doing the segments that he recorded having to look after his mental health. I'm doing the main segment of the podcast now. It's just me. I haven't been up to much, you know. I got a new job. I'm working at a Domino's, like a little pizza Domino's, which is really fun. Really, it's really cool. I've had 3 shifts there so far. They're starting me on small hours. I'm supposed to be a delivery driver, but my car crapped itself right before I started the job. So I need to get my car fixed, which means I need money to get my car fixed, which is a whole thing. But luckily the guys there are so nice, and they're so supportive, and they're so lovely, and so I'm getting some hours to be able to help out with that. And so I'm gonna be there for a while. Hopefully, I need a job. You know, I've been locked up in the house for too long, and it gets boring. And as much as I love just sitting down and just bashing out scripts for people, you know, I love doing it. I love writing, and I love telling stories. But I need to be able to get out and do something, you know. And so hopefully this is that, and hopefully I can be here. I can be there for a while. And I'm really enjoying it so far. Yeah. I've mastered the till. I made some cheesy crust pizzas the other day. That was really fun. I did the dishes the other day for about 2 hours straight. So I chucked in some headphones. I got through a couple episodes of a Class Big Finish volume that I haven't listened to yet. So I think I got through Everybody Loves Regan, and then I listened to the Seas of Titan from that new Ninth Doctor box set, which was really cool. On top of that, Kiwi Doctor is coming along. You know, episode 1 of season 1, fully edited. Music by Jed Rhodes has been fully done, and the cover up by Isaac Blake, Motion Idea Films, has just been finished today. So he's sent that through to me. I'm on a Zoom call with him right now, actually. We're nearly always on Zoom calls, us lot. So I'm on a Zoom call. He's making something. But, you know, just sometimes, you know, you like just being on calls with people. And I like being on calls with people and being able to talk. But I said, you know, look, I'm going to go off and I'll do a podcast. We'll do podcast. So I'm doing podcast. But no, he's a lovely guy, and he's made me some incredible cover arts. And the cover art for episode 1 is now done, which means I can properly render episode 1 and begin work on the next few episodes, which is very exciting for me. Yeah. The world's of Doctor Who. Not much has been going on, you know. Obviously, Gemma Redgrave is coming back as Kate Stewart, which is very exciting. I love her. I love that kind of corner of the Doctor Who universe with Unit and with Kate Stewart and the Lethbridge Stewart family. So I'm very excited to see her back. And then they've just been filming a lot. Big slug thing, sucking people's heads in the street. It's odd being able to look at Doctor Who filming again, because it was very secretive during the Whittaker era. You hardly got anything, but we got quite a bit now, and I'm excited. It's looking like it's going to be a very good, very fun era of the show. So I'm very excited about that. Obviously, not a lot of Shooty. I think Shooty is still filming Sex Education season 4, which is why he hasn't been on set a lot. Millie Gibson has been though, and it's really cool to see her on set. She looks like she's having a lot of fun. The show looks like it's really taking a step up, and it's doing something really cool. I'm loving the costume variants we're getting. Shown of her, a lot of plaid, however people pronounce it. A lot of that on the set, on her costume, and on Shooty and on Tennant and whatnot. So but it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, not only with this era but also with Ruby Sunday, because as we all know, the Doctor isn't the only important character in the show. You've got Shooty Gatwa coming in as the Doctor, and that's very exciting. But just having him on his own, you need the kind of dynamic between him and someone else, which hopefully Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday will be able to bring to the table. And from the set videos that they've released, and from what she's spoken about the character, I think the way that they've likened them to two schoolgirls gossiping, I think it's a really fun way to do the role, to do the characters. And so I'm very excited for them, and I'm very excited for that character. I'm talking about companions, of course. Look at this transition. You love me, Connor? You love me, don't you? I talk about companions. Crimson Hunter Volume 4 comes out this month. Yes, because we're now in February and this thing will release. And we're one day away from February when I'm recording this, by the way. I'm recording this on the 31st of January in New Zealand, of course. And I think also in the UK. It'll be very early morning, but still then. But yes, Crimson Hunter Volume 4 comes out this month. The last hurrah of this series. Of course, I had the privilege of writing a couple episodes for it, and that was it was lovely. It was lovely writing for it, and writing for Julia, and writing for this corner of Cravat's universe. But this is it. This is the final volume, and so we have Connor Chadwick. The man himself, Mr. Chatters, has recorded a segment where he talked to Chelsea Lagan and George Guidera, who is appearing in the volume as well, about the volume. And so I think we should just listen to the trailer. There we go.
Overton Audios presents...
I've got you. There. I've got you.
Who are you?
It's me, James. I suppose things are different on the other side.
Of the Nexus Point?
You're exactly where you stood before, but in another universe.
We need your help, and the Crimson Hunter is no longer available.
Put her over there.
I recognize that voice.
Dampeners remain at 100% efficiency.
But you're both the Doctor.
And you killed our future self. And now you will pay.
He watched you kill the Doctor. Then, Agent West worked quickly to save us. He got to all of us, before the temporal shockwave washed over us.
I used to be the Crimson Hunter, yes, but in my universe, my life, I ended that part of my life.
But this is what I have left.
How did you get on board?
I have my ways.
You have no name.
Where are you taking me?
Far away.
I was going to be with you forever.
I know.
And that's the way it's always been. The Doctor and Miss Breslin.
Always remember, I am with you in your mind.
What the hell?
It can't be. Veritas.
The Crimson Hunter, Volume 4. coming the 11th of February 2023 at 12 p.m. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Chelsea Lagan and George Guidera. Hello, people.
Hello.
How are you both?
Emotional. Very emotional.
Indeed. And George?
How are you, G?
I am good. I am also a tad emotional. But you know, I can imagine Chelsea's definitely a lot more emotional than me right now. But, yeah.
Very much so. Very much so.
It is the final volume of Crimson Hunter. We've just had a
I
quick.
don't believe it.
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
Yeah, we've just had a quick re-listen to the trailer and such, and yeah, it's certainly an interesting volume. How long has it been? Like basically, we made the first Crimson Hunter volume during the first lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird one, yeah. And now we've developed it. We originally meant to stop at volume 2, but then we've made these extra 2 volumes, and as evident from the trailer, we've seen that we're obviously not in the correct universe. We're in a universe where things are a lot worse. The Crimson Hunter, there is no Julia Breslin. It's just Crimson Hunter, still played by yourself, Chelsea, but a universe where a universe where the Crimson Hunter is now just is now full time. There is no more Julia, and obviously we've seen there as well. We've got the blonde Doctor being played by George, a very much darker version. We could not entirely correct it, but
you tried, but
yeah. How do you feel, Chelsea, that without like the final volume's about to come out?
I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't like anytime you mention it, I'm like, nope, it's not gonna happen. It's not happening. No, it's just for the fact that Julia has been a very big part of my craft, my career. She's the one that started, like, you're the one who literally was just like, oh, can you play this character and whatever. It was only supposed to be a couple of lines and that was it. And now, nearly 6 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
And it's like,
didn't we say last time you were on it was July 2017? I just messaged going, could you just quickly say, who are you? Very quickly. And that was it. You were just a one-line cameo.
Yeah, because we were filming downloaded something like that.
Yeah.
And it was literally like, oh, can you say these lines? And I was like, yeah, I'll say these lines. And then obviously this is just like spiraled into this whole thing 6 years later, that I've literally gone on this this voice acting journey quite extensively. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And like letting go and saying goodbye to this character is just like it's like my longest running character, and probably the longest running character that I'll ever do. And I just have such like an emotional connection to this character. It's like, no, Connor, make a couple of more audios about Julia, please. I can't let go.
Yeah, it's just because there was a time I remember when because we if you look at it, obviously as we're recording this, it's January. You've been Julia Breslin for 4 years after we'd recorded Julia's death. And you like 2 years you were Julia before the death scene came in, and now 4 years later we're still playing it. Yeah, we
literally it was just like Julia recording into her phone. Now I'm Julia recording into a microphone.
Julia is eternal. Long live Julia Breslin.
Love Julia Breslin. That is the quote. That is how it shall be.
How did it work out? Was it because you must have recorded from what I looked at from the original files, you recorded your death scene in February 2019, and then it came out in November 2019. So I'm trying to think. So was it really that long of a gap until Crimson Hunter? We must have done something else. I know that you were. We did a episode called Transcendence, which was a big 3-parter, and you
Mm-hmm.
cameoed in that as kind of like when Cravat was dealing with the loss, and he tried to use something called a reality circuit. He tried to bring you back. And
Yeah.
ghost in that scene. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else you worked on together during that, because there was a gap there where
We did Time Traveler during that
I
time as
suppose,
well.
yeah, we
But
did make
then obviously when Crimson Hunter happened, it's like, you know, I guess like Crimson Hunter is like that bit of like I would say, a bit of like, your older audience type thing, because there's more cursing and much more
mm.
things.
Well, that
Wink,
was
wink,
something
nudge, nudge.
trying to sort of like just run the line with, because originally I think when they did the first volume, the first episode that was written by Thomas Aidan James was very still very much fitted into the Doctor Who realm. Dan was writing something with a little bit of swearing in, but then when I'd script edited episode 1, we'd come up with the idea for Julia and Marcus. So when I wrote that, Dan was like, "Well, I have to script edit now." And then, when Thomas heard his episode back, he was like, "What? Hang on, when was it? Like this is." But no, that's the thing. I think Crimson Hunter has really helped, and not that we didn't do this also, but with Cravat, but I think Crimson Hunter really gave the opportunity to add more depth and humanize Julia Breslin a lot more, because certainly with seeing her origins of how she joined the Earth Defense Squad, became the Crimson Hunter, and also the relationship she'd had with different people, and how that's developed over time. Like, certainly, like, I feel like you'd only really spoken very briefly over, I think, a Zoom call, maybe just before, maybe even after, but the chemistry that you and Luke Lane had as Devlin for the first volume, like, you'd never really spoken, and it was just really, really great.
Yeah, that's quite true.
Yeah, and the fact that the Doctor wasn't around, especially for the first volume, it was all pre-Cravat anyway. It was a really good opportunity to see what this person was like in the greater, wider world. And then
there's a very big difference between Julia before the Doctor and Julia after the Doctor. Which we definitely see within these episodes, these, final episodes, we see the very big difference.
Well, yeah,
and that's something that I want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. And like for example, the second volume, the Doctor's not very happy, sends you back to your past to confront it, but you also get to see the growth of having met the Doctor. You're like, everyone's like, "But you're the Crimson Hunter, you let this happen," and you're like, "I'm sad that I let this happen," and they're like, "What? Come on, it's you." And then with volume 4, certainly this final volume, you're faced in a universe where basically it's not really a spoiler here, it's said from the very first 5 minutes in the volume, it's a universe where Cravat died instead of Julia. So it's just swapping the dynamic, and you get a chance to see what happens to that version of Julia as a result of losing the Doctor, the only light that was left in her life after that, and you get to see what she became. But also, that's why it's really nicely contrasted with Julia from the Prism side of things, going over there and seeing how they're both becoming polar opposites of one another as well.
It's like with Cravat, Julia, literally, it was just like, wiping the slate clean, and she could actually just be Julia around the Doctor. She didn't have to be like the title that she earned of Crimson Hunter. She didn't have to keep up an appearance or anything. She just had to be Julia. That's all that she could be. And that's what I really liked. Like, especially in these episodes, that's what I really wanted to show. It's just like the very difference between Julia from the very beginning, before Doctor, and then afterwards. Which I found quite difficult, very difficult.
Yeah.
But it was just listening back to like the audios from the very beginning of Julia, and trying to channel back then.
There was one that was made, which, do you remember the audio? There was an audio book that you were going to read in for, but just didn't have the time to, that was about Julia. In that story, it said from Julia's perspective, I read in for it more of a third person now, but in that, the Doctor gets knocked out and someone's about to do surgery on him. And in that audiobook, you get, obviously, because you can be more talk about the feelings of the character, Julia becomes the Crimson Hunter in the Doctor's presence whilst he's unconscious. So there's this really nice moment where she gets her instinct, just throws a knife in the guy's head and kills him, and then just has to hide the crime completely. And then there's someone there who's
that's wholesome.
Yeah, but
Overton Audios, very wholesome.
She has to hide the crime for the rest of the story. And then there's one person who goes, "You do realize I recognize you?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to kill you if you tell him." But that's why I think it has a nice. But you know what I mean? It's like you see that nice development, and I'm glad that we ended up making that audio book, because it's like, even though we know the Doctor finds out eventually, it was a nice story where it's hidden from him, and she's having to like dance around the fact whilst trying not to be that person. The thing, I think we've been able to really develop the character. Do you remember when she was just this, before I came up with the idea for the assassin, she was just someone who worked on a space station. It was just like,
yeah,
5 men came.
That was basically it. Because I remember whenever you're like, I remember you texted me and be like, Chelsea, I have to tell you something about Julia. And I was like, what? And you sent me parts of the script, and I'm like, who is she? What has she done? Who is this person? And then you told me, and I was like, shit, no, this cannot happen. You went into full detail about explaining it to me, and I was like, this is who I've been this entire time. I feel so dirty. What?
But it's also really interesting because you know the mantra of the Doctor is to never like soldiers or assassins, but the Cravat's arguably main companion, Julia, is the best assassin ever, like the most efficient killer, and he's like, that's her. Like, and that's like, but that's
yeah,
kind of nice.
Yes, Queen, literally slay.
Yeah.
Slay, Queen.
Well, that's the thing. The Doctor literally just does turn to her sometimes, go, Daleks are coming, get the guns. And she's like, okay. And she just runs and goes and gets they fight in a war together. They fight in the Federation War.
They definitely grow together throughout their whole time together, as you know, the Doctor and his companion. You definitely see the growth of them both. At the fact, you know, the way I describe it is that Julia becomes more humanized. She's not just this weapon anymore. She becomes her own person, because she spent so long like being the Crimson Hunter, like an absolute like machine, a weapon, and then she just becomes more human and like what she used to be, with feelings and everything. And then the Doctor becomes more accepting of who she is. But still, I'm sad to say goodbye to her, because I love her. I love Julia.
We're at a point now where I feel with this final volume, there's, you know, doing any more would really we'd get bored, because there'd be nothing new to do.
Yeah, that's true.
You
don't want to lessen like any like development you've done. You don't want to lessen that.
Yeah, like that's the thing
I think right now, you know, with Julia, I think this is like this will probably be the perfect time to, you know, have her, you know, her end, you know, just, you know, I think it is a perfect time for it anyway. I think if we did do it any longer, it would, you know, just be dragging things out too much.
Yeah.
Like, even though she did die like 4 years ago, but you know, we don't count that.
But it's one of those things of you'd not want to go because you're like, well, I think it's done. You want to like, and be feeling like, what else are we going to do? You want to leave whilst there's still a little bit of love, you know, there's still love in it, because then you appreciate what was there, you know. But yeah, and you know, seeing as George is here, sorry, George.
Hi.
We might as well have
Sorry, George, your turn now.
About Blondie in this. He's obviously, you know, Julia and Blonde met in Volume 3, and that has kick-started really Blonde's appearances in Prism. But in this one, you're not actually playing Blonde, that same Blonde Doctor, are you? You're playing.
We have a third Blonde Doctor in the mix now.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So I didn't know. Obviously, I knew I had Volume 3. And then you said to me, "Oh, you were just messaging me one day and said, oh, you know, I'm doing the final Crimson Hunter volume." I was like, "Oh, cool." And you went, "Do you want Blonde to be in it?" And I was just there like, Go on, sir. Tell me more. And then you explained to me the concept. And one, it was great to perform as an acting thing because again, I know we joke about how you couldn't fully corrupt him, but getting to play this more darker, almost like less sympathetic version of Blonde was really nice for me to play. And I mean, I've said this before during the recording, there are some bits where because obviously you can tell he's the one struggling to be ruthless out of the different doctors here. Uh, so there are actually points in the recording where I was genuinely starting to cry while delivering the lines. But because also the thing is, it meant a lot for me as well. Because one, I mean, it was just fun to do, and I love working with both of you. I genuinely love working with both of you. But it was also a case of Crimson Hunters really special to me because obviously that was the thing that brought the Blonde Doctor back. So getting to be there in the end was a big deal for me, especially the fact that I get a lot of scenes with Chelsea. So it was nice to have the Blonde Doctor and Miss Breslin team up again. Because, as much as we didn't record it live, I just thought me and Chelsea worked really well off each other. It's one of the big reasons I asked Chelsea to play my companion on Instability. Hey, just a shameless plug. But no, it was great to do. But yeah, I got very emotional because I think having listened into enough stuff that Chelsea's done, or been there live during recordings, I'm literally just there like, yeah, I can imagine how she'll deliver this line. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about how the scene would go, especially because in a way it feels like the Blonde Doctor is essentially Julia's companion through some of this, which I was like, so this is what it feels like. But at the same time, I was just like, I really liked that dynamic. And again, seeing the development of Julia is fantastic. And I think, if you've definitely ending this character with a bang.
You're making me emotional, lads.
I can't help it. I'm sappy.
I will quickly add as well. There are things I want to say, but I feel like now Chelsea, the waterworks are gonna.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there was no one else better who could play the Crimson Hunter or Julia Breslin. Oh no! Oh no!
I'm fine.
Absolute perfection.
Oh
and,
no!
If when the Blonde Doctor came back, I'm so glad the first person he teamed up with was Julia Breslin.
Yeah.
Oh, Chelsea.
Oh no! Honestly, it's been such an emotional journey. An amazing journey. Because without Connor and without Julia, I wouldn't be here where I am today. And I wouldn't be literally, I am so proud of myself. This is the biggest achievement that I have had with being this character. And literally, Julia has taken me to above and beyond. Have made me work with these amazing individuals, working with so many people in Overton Audios, TT, and possibly future peeps as well. And honestly, I love her. I love her so much. So definitely I will be posting many photos of many tears of happiness and sadness whenever it definitely comes to it. But no, I love her. I absolutely love her so much. Love you, Jules, Queen, Slay.
Yeah, you've been a part of Overton Audios before it even really started to kick off. You've been there since the very beginning. Really, well, bar two audio dramas that we've ever made. There were two audio dramas we made where you weren't there, not necessarily just about being in the audio, but just generally what you might call a part of the Overton family. And then literally third audio we ever made was your first ever appearance, and here we are 300 audio dramas later.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Time flies when you're having fun, boy.
If I can just say quickly, I just want to say this because you're talking about obviously your journey, Charles. I just want to say, just speaking from all the people you're generally one of the best actors I've ever worked with. And I just want to make that very clear. So you should be incredibly proud of all the stuff you've done. So I'm really glad you acknowledged that.
You're making me cry again. Oh no, thank you, my darling. Honestly, working with like so many people, oh my god, so many talented, very talented individuals, including yourself. You talented being, you both talented beings. Oh, emotional Chelsea tonight. Welcome to Overton Audios. Amazingness. Wow.
We're all going to see each other in a couple of weeks, aren't we? So we're all going to meet up and have.
I know, and I'll be an
Oh, yeah.
emotional wreck as well. Absolutely emotionally damaged.
Connor will just bring the finished audio and be like, "Do you want to listen to it early?" And we're like, "Connor, no, this is meant to be
No,
happy.
no, run away, run away."
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Stay focused."
As you heard in the trailer, we do go back to the final moments as well. It all completes at the same point it finished at 4 years ago. All comes full circle.
Because Connor wants to rip out everybody's heart.
I was showing you, wasn't I? I was showing you edits of it, and we were both just getting tearful again, listening to the same scene. And of course, we just for the sake of audio quality, because since then we've got better mics, we had to re-record.
Yeah.
And when we re-recorded that scene,
we re-recorded
did it
everything.
pitch perfect again.
I know, but that's the thing. It was just like me. I wanted to try get it to see the same as I possibly could, but obviously with little hints of difference. But one thing as well, whenever I was recording that, obviously was crying beforehand as usual. But I didn't listen to the original audio where that happened. I didn't listen to it. I literally knew it by memory.
Yeah.
And I knew I was just like, you know what? I can't say this in any different way. I really couldn't, because it was just, for me, that was the original emotion that I had, and I wouldn't want to change that. I never wanted to change that. And I remember putting, obviously, the new ones that we recorded that were the exact same lines and everything, well, near enough the same lines, and the very original ones. We put it together, and it was literally in sync.
Yeah, we
and
overlaid it, didn't we?
Crazy.
Yeah, we overlaid it with the new lines, and I think what I ended up doing in the end was I kind of actually used a bit of both in the end, just to see how it would sound, and you couldn't tell the difference there either. But yeah, when you put the like the original edit and the new edit for this volume together, even though it's literally been completely we've completely re-recorded it, and I like to think, obviously, because I'm not that I claim to be the best actor in the world, but I like to think I've hopefully improved somewhat in terms of what
you're amazing, my darling.
Oh, thank you. No, I listen back to my mind. I'm just like, God, couldn't I have done any better? I found like I was just like, oh no,
you did perfect.
Okay.
You did perfect. Honestly.
Thank you.
But you remember whenever that first came out and you first showed me like the crying pictures.
It's my favorite. I will say, even though you're crying in it, it's like, I don't know why, the whole aesthetic of what you look like in the photo is just hilarious to me. You've just got out of the shower. You're sat there in your bathroom with your the towel done up with your hair, and you're just sat there crying.
You know what? For this podcast, if you wanted to insert that picture, you can insert it now.
That will just be
I
on
give
the
you
cover.
permission.
Maybe I'll do like a highlight post.
Photo.
I'll do like a highlight post of all the photos we've ever sent to one another of edits and stuff.
Or just replace
include your
Eamon's
crying
face.
ones too.
Yeah, I'm
going to include your crying ones too.
And what we'll do is, when we meet up in a couple of weeks, we'll get like one final photo together. Because
no, I'll cry. But we'll do it, even though I will be crying. I'll bring tissues.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be so good. So good.
Indeed.
Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. Oh, poor Julia. Love her lots. Absolute queen.
Is there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about, or I've got anything more we'd say?
I'm excited.
Stage for the volume, but other than that, I'm not intending to Chelsea cry again. But of course, like I said earlier, would never have cast anybody different. It's been an amazing journey. It's we couldn't have done it without anybody else, and wouldn't have had it any other way.
I'm not crying.
Oh.
I'm not crying. crying.
You're going redder.
Your biggest acting challenge.
Yeah.
The red kazoo.
No, it cannot happen. No.
And the hair starts to turn red.
All I'll say is I'm excited for people to hear it, and I'm excited to hear all the other projects Chelsea will be in, whether that's with Overton, when Instability, TT, just yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're
Everywhere
leaving.
I dabble in a bit.
Yeah, you're certainly not leaving Overton.
Get rid of me?
No.
You can't fucking get rid of me.
No.
She wouldn't let you get rid of her.
No.
I wouldn't let you. Nobody else would let you, I don't think. But no, it has been an incredible journey. It's been an incredible journey with Julia, and again, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, again, she means so much to me. And finally, like, even though it's heartbreaking to me, having her have send off and literally, and when people listen to it, just such an amazing ending. And I just hope that everyone who listens to it enjoys it. And I also wanted to thank everybody for being on this journey with me as Julia. And I'm not going to cry.
Your biggest acting challenge, don't cry.
Right, gee, I'm not that good. Not that good. Can't stop crying now. But no, I really do appreciate everybody who's been on this journey with me. And, you know, here's to more Chelsea doing random characters for stuff, but probably in her own accent as usual. But let's go. That's it.
Random Chelsea pop-ups.
That's it. I'm just going to jump in every now and again.
Well, once again, thank you both. And
thank you very much, my darling.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Indeed, I jump back to myself in the future in the podcast.
And welcome back to the main segment of the podcast. It is I, Eamon, once more, still solo. But I think I'm doing quite well so far, actually. And it's lovely. It's lovely hearing the three of them talk. Chelsea has such a love for that character that it's quite evident and quite obvious. And every time I've spoken to Chelsea about Julia, she's obviously quite protective and quite quite protective. I don't know what the other word I was trying to think of was there. But she's quite protective of the character, and she loves her. She loves Julia so very much. And it's lovely to see. It's lovely when an actor creates that kind of bond and relationship with a character that they're playing. And Chelsea is such a wonderful actress, and Julia is such a wonderful character. That it's going to be hard to see no more Julia. But this is, Chelsea's done a great job. Chelsea's done a really, really splendid job with this role. And I can't wait to see what she does past this. Anyway, moving on, we have comments reading. Chad has originally said to me, don't need to do comments reading if you don't want to. But then I looked, and 10 things have been released since the last podcast. So if we waited until March podcast, we would be here for about 4 hours just reading comments. So I thought, look, I'll get through them. I'll see what I can do. So, first up, wrapping up the 2022 releases, we have Doctor Who Earthbound Cryonics Part 2 by Connor Chadwick. Dr. Redivivus, good old Michael Cox, says, a great conclusion to the story. It's a feature of all Overton Audios releases that one can always expect an exciting adventure and a diverse range of character in which the listener can invest, and episode 4 did not disappoint. Fraser is already a firm favourite with the audience, as are the chatties. It's nice that a new and quite different character, Officer Bennett, rounds out the ensemble. Hopefully we can expect to encounter more from each one of them, and when it is deemed appropriate to future stories. And it's quite right. I love the chatties, and I love Fraser. And Officer Bennett was a really cool addition to the ensemble. So he's very right. And of course we have new Torchwood coming out this year with Fraser, and we've got another Cravat Doctor volume coming out, Ascension, which is very exciting. I wrote a story for that one. Keep your eyes out for that one. It's a favourite of mine. But CSP says, so here we are, the last episode of the volume on the last day of the year. Very good scheduling, Connor. It's been a while, but I remember I wasn't so sussed on part 1. But you know what? Part 2 was just that little bit better. It was more about the characters facing the Ice Warriors, but I'm fine with that. Part 1 did all the work building us up to this episode, and this one didn't disappoint at all. Standouts this episode would have to go to Peter and James. There's a scene in the middle of the episode which really got to me. I really liked it, and I will say it really does stay with you even after listening to the end of the episode. Everyone else was on top form this episode, but Peter and James, the latter, I think, would make for a really great incarnation of the Master, just from his Ice Warrior performance alone. Really stood out. I was sad to learn this would be the last Earthbound story, as I was kind of getting used to it after The Lost Man had not so much Doctor in it. But I suppose that is the way of having 2 story volumes now. You'll get the brief taste, but not the full meal, if you know what I mean. Anyways, 2023 looks amazing, and I can't wait until we get to it. Thanks for reading this, and be seeing you, my friends. 2023 does look amazing, and we will move into that right now with Doctor Who Divergence, Episode 1, Blissful Ignorance, by Connor Chadwick. Oh my, this was some really gripping drama. For once, I don't think I can say much more than that. I can't wait for the rest of the series, says CSP. And he was right, it's a really great story, and Connor did a really good job working on that one. And Divergence is a really cool series to have worked on. I've written a couple of them that you'll find out later on, but it's a really cool series to work on, and Connor's really brought his A game to this one. The Blonde Barker says, wonderful! A great drama which really shows you what you can do with the rich lore of Gallifrey. And I know that was something Connor really wanted to do. Connor loves lore, and Connor loves history of Doctor Who things. We've been on calls where he's just sitting down and he's just reading the TARDIS manual. And we've been on calls where he's just told me, we've just gone on 20-30 minute spiels about the Dalek lore and why Daleks did this and why Daleks did that. And he loves lore, and so I think he'd be very proud. He'd be very happy with this comment. He loves lore and he loves building on it. Dr. Redaviva says, I knew that Connor was fascinated by what-if stories, and when I read the scripts for the Divergent series, I came to a better appreciation of why that is. Divergence enables us to take familiar elements from the world of Doctor Who and give them new life, without some of the concerns around canon, which can so often have a bearing on other releases. Episode 1 sets the scene with a Doctor that is different from the one we know, but has the potential to become something like his BBC counterpart. This is storytelling outside the box, so to speak, and this amazing adventure has only just begun. Then we move into the first full volume that we're going to do comments reading for, which is Mastermind, Volume 2, Overton by moi. So Episode 1, The Salvation of Carpathia, by me. CSB says, and a Happy New Year. Well, I wasn't expecting this to be the first release of 2023, but I'm so glad it was. Damn, Eamon is a brilliant writer. Thank you. I think he wrote something really good here with the Master. I'm glad he's been able to give life to John's Master through Mastermind, because he really does provide him with the right voice. Anyways, apart from that, performances were very good. John was as sinister as ever, with Abby being the perfect person to believe him. Plus, there was a really good Zeta President in there. Wonder who did that voice, eh? And Jack was good as well, bringing the whole cast together. This was fantastic as a season opener, and I cannot wait to see what comes next in this volume. If the next episodes are as good as this one, then rest assured we'll have a great volume on our hands. And I hope the rest of the season, rest of the volume pleased you, but we will find that out. First, Dr. Redovivus. Excellent performances from the cast. The disturbing thing about John's Master is that he views all other life forms as commodities, a means to his end, and Eamon's script certainly delivers. The fates of Mii and Liko really showcase the Master's perverse side. The suffering of others can be amusing for him. The Master is a case study in psychopathy. I really hope that someday down the line the Northern Doctor will discover what this Master has been up to and call him to account. Speaking of the Northern Doctor, Nathan Carter has said, rather enjoyed this, which is lovely. I don't think I've made it any secret that I love Nathan Carter. Quick tangent, but I used to sit in my nan's spare room where her computer was, her old box computer, when I was like 11, 12 on school holidays, and I would I'd watch the new Nathan Carter episode come out, and I loved it. I've been a big fan of him for so many years. And so just to be working around him, I've interacted with him online, but never actually spoken to him. But like, he's a wonderful guy, and if he's listening, I just want to tell him that I appreciate everything he's ever done. And I think he's wonderful. Moving on, The Knowledge of Life by Moi. Blonde Backer says, I don't know how to feel about this gritty reboot of Short Circuit. Seriously though, that was excellent. Perhaps one of the best stories I've heard from this series. Thank you. CSB says, damn, just damn. How do I say anything else but this was the creepiest audio that Overton Audios has put out. Trust me, talking about this for paragraphs and paragraphs would not do it justice. Listen to it, and hopefully you'll agree with me. And here we have a paragraph from Dr. Redivivus. Over the years, there have been a number of stories that explore the question of what constitutes life, often taking quite different perspectives on the subject. Invariably, these are the respective authors' means of offering social commentary on their own times and how people are failing to be truly human. As such a complex question, it requires sufficient time to delve into it, and forgive me for saying so, but my gut feeling is that to really invest in the development of the central characters, Tabit and Knowledge, a somewhat longer story was probably required. We needed to see much more of Tabit slowly but surely allowing his emotional side to mature, so that what happens to Evie really hits us hard. Knowledge's process of individuation needs to be taken slower, stage by stage, so that we have a real sense of growth over the passage of time, something akin to organic life. I loved his peak experience of the sunset, and more such elements would have been welcome. Although the Master is part of the story, because it's Mastermind, some listeners could consider it a bolt-on, and therefore somewhat divorced from the main action. However, I would disagree. Sweeping in at the last moment and ruining things for others without a care is an instance of narcissistic self-absorption, a sign that a person has not completed the process of individuation. Ironically, the AI Knowledge, who cares for others, is more human/alive than the Master, who is deeply psychologically damaged. So a wonderfully clever dramatic juxtaposition. Anyway, I do think this is a great story and certainly works well as it is, but it had the necessary elements to have been given a truly excellent one, with just a few more scenes. Apologies for my pretentious waffle. And I fully agree. I think that episode could have been longer. This was at the time when I was still very much keeping to the page limit Chatters was trying to force upon me. At one point I just stopped, I think, which he's probably listening to this right now as he's editing and just weeping. But also, I think out of the 4 episodes and Mastermind Volume 2, this was the one I struggled with writing the most. Because I didn't want too little Master in it, but also I knew that I wanted it to be a Tabit and Knowledge-centric story. And I think originally in my original ideas for it, I did have a lot more scenes in there, but I didn't want to overbear the story with what I thought probably then would have been unnecessary kind of waffle, but as you've pointed out, Michael, probably could have helped the story and could have pushed it forward, but also I didn't want to burden Connor with too many characters or too much stuff going on. But if I'd written that story now, say I probably wouldn't have given it. I probably would have given it more time, and I would have thrown in some more scenes and given it more care. But it's all in hindsight. You look back and you think, I could have done that differently. I could have done this differently. But yeah. Episode 3, The X-Men of New Orleans, by me again. A dark tale that deftly weaves the Master into real-world events, Eamon's story enables John's incarnation to really stand out as the most gruesome version of the Master. I can't imagine any of the other iterations using an axe and then digging about in the corpse. The Master seems to be enjoying himself in this episode, so utterly delighted with his killing spree. He really is an unstoppable force, and that was from my Dr. Redivivus. Blonde Backer says, what an excellent episode, which is a awful but incredible pun. Seriously though, that was some wonderfully dark humour. I think this one will stick with me for a while. I'm glad. I'm very glad. This is one of my favourite episodes to write. I got this idea from the BuzzFeed Unsolved episode where they talked about the same thing. And so I thought, oh, that'd be a cool thing. And I also think I was trying to one-up John, because John was known for writing horrific, grotesque things in his scripts. And so I was like, I'm going to one-up John. And I think I did. CSB says, a very fantastic episode. I do love the detour into murder, but murder for an inner purpose. Eamon wrote a fantastic episode. I love the performances, and especially the visceral sounds of the deaths. I say you could generally put this on at Halloween, and it would still be able to scare you. 9.5 out of 10. And thank you for that. And the last episode of the volume was called The Singularity, which is a episode I loved writing. I loved writing it. There are spoilers for the episode in this, so unless you don't want spoilers, if you don't want spoilers, go listen to the episode. It's an excellent episode. Colin did a really good job on this one, and then come back and listen to this. TARDIS Glitch says, interesting story and a great pairing of the Master and the Northern Doctor. And it's a great surprise seeing Laura Young appear as the Mistress. And of course, Laura Young is from the Kiwi Doctor stuff. As someone in the comments was a little confused about, but Dwem came in and informed them. Bombacker says, what an explosive in more ways than one episode, and what an ending. Dr. Redaviva says, as TARDIS Glitch says, it's a great pairing of this Doctor and this Master. Somehow, the Master is a little less manic in this episode. Perhaps having his old friend with him is a stabilizing influence. This is a suitably high-paced story for the final volume in such an unexpected ending, which leaves us wondering what comes next. What a cliffhanger. However, we'll all enjoy speculating until Volume 3 appears. Clearly something that is going to require the help of the Mistress, played confidently by Laura Young. And she will love these comments. She'll be very appreciative of it. I spoke to her the other day. She's very appreciative of all the love people have been showing recently. So, big thank you from her. CSB then says, was not expecting this episode. Neither this pairing of Doctor and Master. They fit so well. Overall, great episode. But I hope this won't be it for Volume 2. That ending has really left me thinking about what could be next. Well, both of you both Michael and CSP have very interesting takes on what this could mean. CSB says that CSB theorizes that maybe Volume 2 isn't done. Michael says that maybe this will go on to Volume 3. And I think, in all honesty, you're going to have to wait to find out. This is leading somewhere. There is a big purpose for this. But you'll have to wait to find out what that is. Now on to the final volume. I've been recording for 17 minutes. Have fun with this, chatters. On to the final volume of January, Doctor Who Dark Universe 2. The final Irish Doctor volume on Overton Audios. What's sad? How sad. Dan's been such a staple on this channel. It's heartbreaking that his time as Irish is beginning to come to a close. But before that, we have 4 episodes to get through, so let's go. Doctor Who Dark Universe 2, The House That Death Built by Joshua Griggs. CSB says, damn, this was honestly very terrifying, but a fantastic way to start this volume. This will definitely join my Overton Audios to listen to during Halloween playlist. 10 out of 10. Dr. Redaviva says, excellent, a creative twist on an urban legend. The story was nicely paced and the characters well written. The dark, menacing presence was maintained throughout and kept the suspense building. Spoilers, Hayley was a great character, and though she had the potential to be a short-term companion, as the dynamics between her and the Doctor would have been interesting, but it wasn't meant to be. The Irish Doctor's universe is truly dark, as of late, and I fear he is on a downward spiral of despair that will crush him if some hope isn't kindled soon. Daniel does splendidly in portraying the Doctor as a pressure cooker of emotions. He does. Daniel's very talented. And TARDIS Glitch, Joshua Griggs himself, says, seeing this story finally come together after writing it was just amazing to hear, and it meant a lot to get to write for one of my favourite Doctors. But also the entire cast did a great job. Now, when can we expect Michelle Willows and Overton Audios to get their own series together? And I agree. Chatters, you're listening to this. I know you are. Listen and start writing. We want it. The audience has spoken, chatters. Everyone wants one. On to episode 2, The Aeronaut by me, Eamon Longman. Task Glitch says, brilliant stories, short but sweet. Found ways of developing characters in less than 20 minutes. Eamon genuinely is just brilliant. Oh, thank you. Lovely bonding between the Doctor and James. That's the sad part about these stories. Each of these characters would have made for excellent companions. They would. Marianne Natal. If I'm saying that wrong, go in the comments and berate me, please. And also tell me how it's properly said, so next time I say your name in a podcast, I can get it right. Because with a name like Eamon Longman, I know how it is. But Marianne Natal says, this made me cry. Its writing was that intense. I've suffered through enough loss in my lifetime, both to death and to abandonment, to make me one big half-healed scar. And sometimes it's good to let a wound drain, as morbid as that sounds. I must still thank you for it. Dr. Rita Viva says, a poignant tale of lost loved ones and fragile dreams. Eamon demonstrates that he can turn his hand to any genre or theme. And Spoon, runner of the Doctor Who Fan Universe server on Discord, says, a rare Spoon appearance. I really enjoyed that. It's a short but sweet story, and the little talk they have at the end is really well written, especially talking about grief over a lost one. It's a really simple story that doesn't have any overarching plot or anything like the last story. It's a nice change of pace from the last few Irish volumes. Though I will say, I would probably smack James in the head if he was real. What a dumbass. And yes, James is a dumbass in that story. But fun fact, the story was a mixture of... I was in the midst of my love for his type materials, but also there's a movie with Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones that came out called The Aeronauts that I love. And so it was based on that. I really enjoyed writing it. Doctor Who Dark Universe 2, To Risk It All by Aidan O'Connor. CSB says, God, I came into this one thinking it would be one thing, and I ended up having some very different thoughts coming out of it. What I can say is I liked it. Dan and Emily made a great duo. John was fantastic as Syl, as always, and I rather grew to like Eamon's Mr. Sharvin. Aidan, in a previous comment, said his performance sounded like Matt Berry. I'd say it sounded a bit like Paul McGann. And spoilers, that ending, though, I wonder how the hell the story is going to continue on from here. Yeah, no, I deliberately did a really weird performance for Connor there. Michael Cox. The other commentators have already said so much about this great production, so I'll confine myself to a couple of additional points. Firstly, the pairing of the morally bankrupt Syl with a human as bad as himself was nicely contrasted with the pairing of the Doctor with Maeve, who, like the Doctor, wants to travel the stars and help others. Secondly, the Doctor's desire to save people has strayed into the morally uncertain waters of at any cost, thereby potentially endangering everything. There are echoes here of the 10th Doctor's journey to become the Time Lord victorious, but unlike him, we see in the Irish Doctor no shadow of the pride of the Valeyard. So, all in all, a great story, and of course, there was the cliffhanger. The resolution could come in a number of ways, and not being able to second guess how this will all end makes for great drama. And CS, or Aidan Connor himself, the writer of this episode, says, got to say, really enjoyed seeing this episode come to life. Wrote this a long time ago. Got given a few specifics by Connor, and it's incredible to hear it all play out now. Well done to the cast. Emily did an amazing job as Maeve, someone going out of their own who seeks adventure in the stars. John, as ever, did an excellent performance on the voice of Syl, really slimy and creepy. To Eamon, what can I say? He brings the character to life. Very Matt Berry-like, I must say. And finally to Dan, the Irish Doctor. Amazing as always. It was an absolute pleasure to write for him. Don't know if I'd ever get the chance again, but must say I'm happy to have gotten the chance. To Connor, editing on top form as it always is, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. Being just a small part in the story of this Doctor was an incredible privilege. P.S. Hope you are both having a dazzling time reading this on the podcast. It'll be interesting to see who got to scroll through this one. And it's just me. Hello, because Cheddars isn't here. So it's just me today. I got to scroll through this one. And a lovely comment it was too, Aidan. And after 24 minutes of recording, we come to the final episode. Imagine if we did this next month, Connor. Imagine if we did this next month. We would be here for 2 hours. The Chaos Theory by Connor Chadwick. Dr. Rita Vivas says, goodness me, that went so quickly. Daniel excels as the tortured soul, seeking some hope in a dark universe. Forgive me, but I did wonder why the other version of the Irish Doctor was more reconciled to the unpalpable solution to the temporal chaos than the main version. A few lines explaining what experiences had led him to embrace that viewpoint ahead of his other self could have helped. Nevertheless, the story works well as a powerful drama about loss, grief, and acceptance. CSB says, well, the end. Going in, obviously, was expecting a big bombastic adventure that would have ended with more heartbreak and thrills. I'm glad you went for less than that. Because honestly, it got me. Not as much as some other moments in the Prism universe, but just enough to where I was hoping the ending would be a light in the dark tunnel. Fantastic ending. 9 out of 10. P.S. Did Dan and Anya re-record that scene? I swear it didn't sound like that originally. If not, well done including it as it was back in ye olden times. And I have no idea. If Connor was here, he could tell us, but he's not here. I suppose we will never find out. A mystery left to the ages. One of those unsolved mysteries. Marianne the Trowel says, you guys just keep putting out top-notch content consistently, and it bowls me over every time. And it's so kind of them. And finally, TARDIS Glitch says, and now the story has come full circle. And what a story it has been. From the uncharted past of the Northern Doctor's genesis, to the heart-wrenching loss of Nathan Chase, to the conglomerate messing up reality as we know it, and then this volume being the perfect way to show the real guilt and darkened soul that the Doctor has acquired, and we see how far he'd really go when suffering with so many grief in such a short amount of time. We ended off with hope, and an ending or beginning, depending on how you look at it, which leads on to some wonderful more adventures. A nice conclusion to the story. Well done to both Daniel and Connor, and everyone who has chipped in as writers or cast. And I agree. A Dark Universe was one of the first things I wrote for Connor, and I really enjoyed writing them. I wrote 3 stories, obviously, Backtrack and Constance and Woe for Volume 1, and The Aeronaut for Volume 2, and I think it's just being able to tell those stories was an incredible privilege, and for Daniel as well. Of course, I've written some other stuff for Daniel later on. He's in The Last Universe, which I wrote, coming to DWEM November. But it's been a wonderful story to see Daniel progress as this incarnation of the Doctor, and now you can officially look through all the way from the Reigns of Ireland to the Candidate, or like the Night of the Wolf, I think. And it's one story now, and it's only the ending that hasn't been told. And I think that is what Daniel has always wanted. Daniel has always wanted the ending to be the ending, which is going to be heartbreaking because Daniel's done such a great job at this. And like Chelsea, like I was saying about Chelsea earlier with her love for Julie, Daniel has such a love for this incarnation of the Doctor that is so evident and so obvious. It's going to be heartbreaking to see him go. But he's put in so much incredible work. Everyone has. That I think everyone should be really proud of themselves. Anyway, on that note, I think we should move in to the other segment that Chad has recorded, which is the Big Finish discussions with George Guidera. And I think they're talking about... I don't know how they do it. So they will tell you what they're talking about, hopefully. There we go.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast, and I'm joined here by George Guidera as we discuss some more Big Finish releases that have come out this month. Hello, George.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am good. I am ready to spend another month talking about Paul McGann.
Indeed. We're going to be talking about Doctor Who, the 8th Doctor, Time War 5.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, the 8th Doctor Adventures, The Time War, Cass.
Kaz Farmatze.
Reporting for duty.
Weird visions. Glimpses of other landscapes, other worlds. Is that what's happening?
The Vespertine isn't really a shipwreck. She's intact.
A man who should be dead in a ship that should be lost beneath a research station that shouldn't exist. This just gets better and better, doesn't it? Something is wrong with the timeline.
Complications. Always complications. Never mess with time.
Those are Daleks. They're Daleks.
Correct.
Terrifying. Absolutely bone-chilling.
Emergency power only. Completely shut down.
Surrender to the Daleks!
No wonder they're so angry. Like big metal wasps.
When will the med team arrive? He really needs a doctor.
I'm a doctor. They're probably not the one you're expecting.
That didn't sound good.
We're shifting through time, getting some odd temporal readings. They're throwing us off course.
We weren't even on course.
Right, hold on.
Nothing can interfere with Dalek plans!
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Indeed, indeed. This came out, I believe, on the 18th of January.
Yeah, 18th.
And I only really finished listening to it a night or two ago. I've just been trying to catch up, but you listened to it fairly quickly, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I listened to it again over the period of 2 to 3 days. I listened to it like from when it came out.
Oh yeah.
Because I was listening to it during breaks at work, especially because this was one of the sets I was like really, really invested in. I was like, oh, okay. Because I thought I didn't know what they were going to do with the Time War range for the Eighth Doctor anymore after the end of Time War 4.
Yeah.
So, any chance for more Paul McGann, plus obviously the idea of them using Cass was really interesting to me. I mean, I remember when they first announced it, you and me were messaging a lot, like, with different theories, because we like to do that when it comes to Big Finish.
Yeah, because we've, what we talked about last month was ironic that we're talking about Time War now. We were talking about the Connections volume of of what you might call Blue Coat 8 era, where we were curious about when this is going to lead into the Time War. But here we are now looking at the Time War and with the Eighth Doctor, but it looks like from you wouldn't entirely be mistaken for thinking that you were getting close to the end of the Time War range with Cass showing up. But they do some interesting things that still keep it fresh.
Definitely. It's like I said to you, and we'll probably get into this more when we talk about individual stories, but I said up until the very last 2-part story, it doesn't actually. This could just be a normal volume. It wouldn't have to be under the Time War brand. Which is not a bad thing. I'd like to stress, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I mean, it just felt like, Eighth Doctor and his companions are going off and doing stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly, because certainly in terms of what Big Finish have done with the Eighth Doctor, he's got it's a mixture now. His eras are a mixture of amnesia and timeline changes.
So much amnesia.
So many timeline changes. But I suppose now the timeline changes actually act as more of a prelude to the kind of level of rewrites we're going to be seeing in the Time War.
And just how effective it can be, especially because I've been binging a lot of the War Master stuff. They really do like to play with the whole timeline altering kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's difficult to find a coherent event, obviously because in last month the War Doctor Begins Time War volume obviously came out. It was the 4th one, and every time they land somewhere, you never know if it's actually coherent or not. That's what's interesting about it. I sort of see each place he goes to as an isolated moment in time rather than a place that just happens to have a date attributed to it.
Everything's flexible. Everything. It's sort of like, I mean, again, we've stressed when we do these, we do go full spoilers, but a slight spoiler for the War Doctor box set that came out. Obviously, in that you have the big reveal that one of the people the Butcher killed was the Master. That obviously gets undone, but again, it shows the Time War stuff is really willing to play with the kind of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff to it, which I appreciate. I think it makes the war a lot more interesting in the sense of just then Darks and Time War shooting each other from either side. It is nice that there's the whole temporal element to it.
Yeah, exactly. And with Time War 5, the first 2 episodes, because that's the thing, I was trying to think of how would it look if you went from Time War 4 straight into Time War 5, rather than what we've done, which is there hasn't been an 8th Doctor Time War box set since September 2020. So this is 2 and a bit years now later.
Yeah.
And there's been a nice break that when we've then come back to it, it feels like it's reintroducing us. But I was trying to think about how would it look to an audience member who's binge watching the volumes again in the future or something like that.
Well, that's essentially what I had to do because I hadn't listened to a lot of the Time War stuff when it first came out because obviously money was a thing for me. So finally got to listen to it, and it's definitely interesting. I think I think this does leave you with a lot of questions. This really will leave you with a lot of questions, which can be looked at as a good or bad thing.
Yeah. Which of course we'll get into the questions a bit later.
But no, I think this is the thing. It very much feels like if you've listened to the past Time War stuff, cool, you will definitely enjoy this and you will get vague sense of what's going on. But at the same time, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this. I don't think the other Time War stuff is essential because this very much. I mean, this very much feels like its own
in
thing.
in terms of what's in this volume.
Yeah. So, like, if you hadn't listened to the 8th Doctor Time War range and you were debating whether to start with Time War 5, I think it's a good box set to jump onto, see if you like it, and then go back and listen to the others. Like, I'd recommend listening to the Time War stuff anyway, but if you haven't, it's not like, I wouldn't throw someone into Time War 4 as their first Time War volume, for example.
Especially not considering that Time War 3 ends on a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
But no, I completely agree with you. Time War 5 doesn't expressly reference the Time War. Obviously, the characters talk about the war going on in the background. But I've actually seen more recently from Big Finish them doing stories set in the Time War that don't have Daleks in them.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed, which I think is good in the sense of it. The risk is with Time War stuff that you're worried it's going to be really tiring, and it's kind of what I've noticed a lot of the time in the War Doctor box sets. They don't really make an appearance to like the last episode, like in the War Doctor Begins and stuff, in a few box sets, or for some stories they're kind of backgroundy kind of roles, which makes sense because I guess if you're doing, I know that there's a big meme that Big Finish likes to overuse the Daleks, but I think if you're doing an entire thing set in the Time War, you don't want to overdo it with the Daleks.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it, but also you can only imagine the horrors that were born out of that war as well. So I get what they're trying to do.
And that's why I like it. I like the fact not everything has to be the Daleks. Like, for example, and we'll probably go into this, we talk about the episodes, but obviously the Daleks don't really make an appearance in this box set till the last story.
Yeah.
Which I think works. I think works really well.
Yeah, because obviously with Time War 4, not to get, again, too much into the past stuff, that was so heavily Dalek. But that's the thing as well, which you've got to consider as well, which is we're listening to it 2.5 years later. For the average listener who may have binge watched it or binge listened to it, going from Time War 4 into Time War 5 actually makes a lot of sense because you've just had a volume in which Daleks were in every single episode as the main villain, and then Time War 5 they're only appearing really as a small like kind of elite class.
Oh yeah, like I said, the fact that this, it feels like the Time War's a backdrop up until the last story, and I'm not saying that as a criticism. I actually quite like the fact it's a very kind of fresh feeling kind of take. It doesn't feel like your typical Time War box set, which, as you discussed, I think the other night, that's a good thing because obviously how like Dalek heavy Time War 4 was. It's kind of nice to have something just a bit different.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think one thing about Time War 5, though, that will now be the largest talking point of this entire segment, Cass and the treatment of Bliss.
So, question, because we know this is going to be a big point, because I think we both have a lot to say on this. Do we want to talk about the individual stories first? Just like give our quick thoughts on the individual stories before then we talk about it as a whole?
Well, my feeling was I was going to do that whilst talking about Cass anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, you'd like to start us off then, sir?
Oh, very well. So I really enjoyed this version of Cass. In fact, there's a lot of similarities to this version of Cass than what we see with Night of the Doctor, which is good. She tells everyone to get off the shop, tells everyone to get off of the ship, to be able to save everyone, and she does that. And she has those heroic moments in Time War 5 as well. So I'm glad that she doesn't change too much. However,
it felt fitting, yeah.
Yeah. However, like it felt like a different telling of their final meeting, because
this is the what if. This is the what if Cass decided to join.
Yes, precisely. I have. I think she was great in episode 2. I think her attitude of no nonsense kind of mixed in with wonder of wanting to find out more. I think that's great. She gives the Doctor and Alex a bit of a run for their money on things.
She has a great dynamic with the two of them.
She does, yeah. And then in episodes 3 and 4, she's also really, really good. And she does kind of step in and do what you might say the Doctor does at times. Make up stories, get them in places, and even the Doctor's like, "Oh, well, I'm supposed to be doing that." She goes, "Oh, right, yeah, sorry." But what is the biggest difference is, of course, is that she's not 100% aware of the war or who's in the war when we first meet her, which is technically in this volume, if you look at it in terms of chronology of the character.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is
she's not as jaded. She's not as jaded because of it.
Yeah, like you can very much still see the infancy of this war, because when we next see her, her role is very similar to the one that we're introduced to, except that she knows what Time Lords and Daleks are and what their ships look like.
Exactly.
So that's the difference, is that the war gets more intense, and that's what drives that story for the Night of the Doctor, which of course is the 50th special tie-in that was filmed by the BBC. I think Cass was quite good in those episodes, and I still enjoyed those individual episodes, especially where there was again, spoilers coming up for anyone listening, there was a specific time lock in place, which meant that they could, a guy called Hudson Sage, who'd met the Doctor before, remembered the previous companion Bliss, who's been in Time War volumes 1 to 4. I don't know where I'm still a bit
you
frustrated.
Have a lot of thoughts when it comes to Bliss, don't you?
I do.
Yeah,
I do, because I feel that when you do a volume, you can't do half a story. I feel like, if you're going to do a 2-parter, then you have to answer the questions enough to create more questions and more intrigue that the audience member can be satisfied. And there were references to Bliss and certainly teases to Bliss, but no answers, no questions answered either. We were left basically that the characters never mentioned Bliss. Like, I think that character from episode 2 called Hudson Sage, he mentioned Bliss, and the Doctor's like, "I don't know anyone called Bliss," and that's when you know something's really, really wrong. And
because he spends the entire thing talking about, "Oh, it's probably in my future or something," when we know it's not.
Exactly. And I just wish that we'd had a bit more alluding to it, because in the first episode they meet someone from, I forgot what it's called now, the person who protects timelines, Friend.
Yes.
But they're from an organization, which means that no matter if the timeline gets changed, their timeline is locked in.
Yeah, because she makes the reference, what was it, where she just suddenly goes, "Oh, you're looking very blissful," like really putting on emphasis on the word bliss.
I think that they've done something, that the Doctor and Bliss got involved with Alex or something. But also they mentioned Alex as well being an anomaly.
Because I thought the big twist with this volume would be, because obviously in Time War 4 we know that Alex is in a cryopod. I thought this was going, and we know that Alex is obviously from an alternate timeline. So I thought, imagine if the twist is this is how this Alex got into the cryopod and ended up in, Time War 4. And then the next volume would be from basically where Time War 4 left off. But now you have the extra knowledge of what happened with Alex.
Yeah, that's actually quite a good theory. That this is actually a what if. It's still the same sort of time war, but yeah, then at the end it ends and it lands with Bliss. That would have been interesting. But sadly, no. I feel like with Time War 5, again, I'm going to get quite critical here because we loved, last month we really loved Connections. With Time War 5, I feel it's the weakest of all of the Time War volumes with the Eighth Doctor so far, but I only found out it was a two-parter volume, not just because of the cliffhanger at the end, but also because I stayed and listened to the interviews at the end of the volume. And the original writer and the creator of the concept of this story said it was a two-parter volume with basically an 8-part series over 2 volumes. And I wouldn't have known that otherwise. So I was really hoping that with Bliss would show up at the end and they'd be like, oh, right, okay, anyway, let's carry on. And then we already know there's a Time War 6 greenlit. But it's the fact that it ends the way it does. And I'm just left there.
We both wanted this as a one and done. Like we said, the what if of, hey, what if Cass was the companion? And then obviously it has to be changed so she isn't. And
this is a theory. This is a theory. We had that Cass replaced Bliss in the story.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how with Bliss, she's actually immune from timeline changes. So like when the Time War shifts, her entire family bloodline gets wiped out, but she's in the TARDIS at the time, which means that she doesn't get affected. She lives still. She just has no history. So you and I were talking about this going, well, she can't have been wiped from time because she can't be. So the only other option is that someone made the Doctor change his mind.
Yeah.
So someone's had to alter the Doctor instead.
Exactly. And this is the thing. I think it would have been a really nice kind of, well, not nice per se, but it would have been a nice thing if at the very end, because obviously changing the events means that an entire race doesn't exist, and the big cliffhanger is, because of this change, Cass isn't in the TARDIS all of a sudden, and for a brief moment the Eighth Doctor and Alex couldn't remember, then they do. I thought that was going to end with Bliss in the TARDIS talking with them, and even if they had vague, and maybe he would have had like a vague memory of Cass, and that would be, maybe like in a later volume, or maybe like say in Time War 6, for example, we suddenly hear near the very end of just like, like a distress signal that you hear in Night of the Doctor, and he kind of has this thing of like, and that's where he goes to help. I mean, one, he's the Doctor; he'll go help anyway. But
this is something I think we talked about very briefly, wasn't it? Where maybe, like you say, they say they're going to go and find her, but they don't. But then at the end, maybe Alex is gone, or Alex has to be gone at some point. But yeah, they're gone, and then he gets this distress call. Hears Cass's voice. He's like, "It's Cass." And then he goes there and finds that she doesn't know who he is, and then just plays along, which is why he, in the original televised special Night of the Doctor, he stays on the ship for so long.
Yeah.
Trying to protect her is because he's been looking for her for so long.
Which adds a nice bit of tragedy to it.
Yeah, I hope that it will be something where in their search for Cass, they actually find Bliss.
So do I, because I like Bliss. I'm interested, the orphan of the Time War. I'm interested in what they do with her, and I've really enjoyed. I like the fact she's more willing to pick up a gun than a lot of other companions are and stuff like that. And all she's been through, I think she has a really compelling story ahead. So I came just before we came onto the recording, I started thinking, imagine if Time War 6 does have Cass in it, but the whole thing is Cass and the Doctor never reunite. But it does this whole thing of, to fix the timeline, she has to bring Bliss back. So she basically gives up her place in the TARDIS to allow Bliss to have come back. I thought, something like that. So you get Cass still getting to be the heroic kind of character, because that's the thing about her. Like you said, she's a bit no nonsense, but she will be a hero. She will look after people when need be, and I really like that about her. She fits in with the like I said, we may have our criticisms, saying that we wanted it to be a one and done, but I like the character of Cass here that they've presented with us, and I really like what they do with her.
I still do as well. I just still feel that because of the longer gaps now between the volumes, I don't know, like for the gap that they've now proposed here, makes me feel like they're going to have Cass come back rather than just have it be a plot thread that could or could not happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think after all the build up, they can't just. No, I completely agree with you. They can't just have it be like, oh, she doesn't appear in it again. So I think she'll have to make some sort of appearance. They could do it where she doesn't interact with the Doctor again or something. But I don't. I think a part of me is a bit like, do we really have to wait another year?
Yeah,
I think that's getting to me a bit. I mean, obviously they got the 60th releases and loads of other releases coming out. So it's not like we're going to be short of content.
No.
And I guess, it does do the job of a cliffhanger. It makes you want to know what happens next. So it has succeeded on this. And, by the time Time War 6 comes out and we listen to that, we might think, okay, no, this works. This did need to be a 2-part kind of, volume.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. We're both kind of talking from having listened to it recently. We might end up sleeping on it tonight, having now worded it the way we have now, and gone, oh, actually thinking about it, I realised that there's a one-liner in there that I hadn't picked up until just this moment, because you and I are quite like that. We find little things to do with the Eighth Doctor and go, oh, wait. That line.
that's my favourite thing, where we'll just suddenly send each other a thing going, do you remember when he said this? I was like, oh my god, you're right, he did say this.
You're like going, yeah, do you remember when he said this in the TV movie? And we're like, oh my word, that's a reference that we didn't understand. Like, well, that's the thing. We're very much like that. So we might end up, if one of us has a re-listen later in the year or something, we might actually hear a few more clues that kind of clear things up for us, and we'll just be like, oh dear, we have made fools of ourselves.
Exactly. But, we're good people. We'll admit it. We'll be honest. But one
we
thing
are good people. We promise.
Exactly. We're nice. We're one of the nice ones. But
I mean, you think of Paul. I think of the one-eyed aliens from the final ever Sarah Jane adventure. You remember them?
We are not the same.
Yeah, when they open up the spaceship.
Yeah,
and he goes, "You're good people." I'm like, that's me.
An alien called you a good person. You will take this.
Well, I was more saying I was probably the alien.
Oh, sir.
Just me going, oh. He does. He makes that noise though.
You are now that alien.
I've also named myself the kind of middle-aged man who was one of the in the Empty Child, who's one of the gas masks who goes towards, in the cliffhanger it's everyone saying mummy.
Yeah.
I've also named myself as the guy who's like, mummy. You'll see him. He's got these massive sideburns and a mask just surrounding his face. And you'll see it just cuts him going, mummy, for a second. Everyone else is like, mummy, are you my mummy? And he's just like, mummy. I'm like, that's me.
Mother.
That's me. Yeah. That is my humour.
That good. I will not, every time I'll be watching the episode now, I'll be like, it's Channers!
Yeah, I'll include, if I remember to, probably won't, but people find that on, I don't know, if you're listening to this in the UK, there's still an iPlayer, and obviously, depending on when that Disney Plus deal goes in, it might be a Disney Plus or whatever program is worldwide. Man, many were saying this for
Big Finish. Where is the spin-off with that one gas mask guy? I want that spin-off.
I think there's a lot more opportunities to do things with nanogenes,
Oh, 100%.
Well, Dan and I did that for the Irish Doctor double Halloween special. We did one where we did one with zombies, where they accidentally rebuilt the brain wrong. So he's still able to walk, but he can't form sentences or think for himself. So they just seem like zombies. And another one where the rogue nanogenes find a wolf who was being hunted in the 1700s, who got shot, but also mauled his hunter before dying. And the nanogenes see both of them dead and merges them to make a werewolf. And I'm like,
see, people, this is why you listen to Overton Audios. It's the good stuff.
Yes, indeed. I will stress though that in terms of going back to the volume,
yes,
I will stress though that it was good. I did enjoy it, and what was presented in those volumes was very nice. It wasn't like Time War 4 was interesting, but I think if we jumped straight back in with that for Time War 5 after the break, it was a nice introductory volume. And we're fully aware as well, like I was saying to you, George, when we talked about this after I'd finished listening, I'm very aware that now I know this is a part 1. The story is incomplete. I just wish it wasn't a part 1. That's it. I like Bliss. I was looking forward to hearing Bliss again, and I don't feel like we're going to, because obviously we talked about how Big Finish do things in blocks of 4 volumes.
Yeah.
So I can completely understand if the actress who voices Bliss is not available right now and has to sign a new contract, and they might be talking about that or something like that. But this is this is a 2-part volume. So my feeling is
it doesn't make our feelings about the not having the character in there any less valid. Like, we can understand behind the scenes reasons why someone might not be in there, but we're still going to wish they were there.
Yes, precisely. Indeed.
It's like how apparently Tom Baker was approached but didn't want to do the Guardians of the Edge scene. And I'm like, fair enough, he doesn't want to do it, that's fine. I'm still going to sit here and wish he did it, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Performance-wise, though, everyone's fantastic in this. And going to the Eighth Doctor, imagine this is weird because it's in the Time War, it's meant to be more serious 8. But ever since the end of Stranded, his performance, and again, from a character perspective, it makes sense, but he's just been a lot more lively again, and I really enjoy that. Like, my favorite moment in this box set is the bit where he is riding a floating Dalek, and literally they're just like you have Alex and Cass going, "Where's the Doctor?" And all you hear is, and it's just like him riding a Dalek. And I thought, this is why we need an Eighth Doctor's live action series. I just want that scene in live action, but. No, I think in the most recent Eighth Doctor releases, it's been nice that they've been able to let him have a lot more fun again.
Yeah, I will admit there was that. Yeah,
and again, Alex is nice to have on board. Like, actually having him be a companion, because obviously I know in the Lucy Miller stuff he gets offered.
I get why there's a time jump. I would have liked to have seen him be resurrected, but again, that might be to do with the whole Bliss thing.
Yeah, because who knows? Or maybe Bliss had to. Maybe the twist will be Bliss had to basically remove her life so Alex could have a life in this timeline. I don't know. I'm just theorizing here.
Yeah, but I do like, because you can feel even in their performance the familial relationship between Paul and Sunny. And
also, just got to stress this now. Big Finish. If you could update it, so on the cast for the other stuff that Alex has been in, because obviously we know that the actor has changed his name. It'd be nice if they would do that, because if you click on Sonny McGann, it only brings up Time War Volume 5.
Well, that's the problem. I think the website's done that automatically. They just need to merge the names, don't they?
Yeah, but no, obviously, obviously both in the show and outside the show there's that family connection. But again, like you said, it is nice because it doesn't feel like him with every other companion. And I kind of like the fact that Alex is, I can't say he sasses the Doctor a lot more, but not like in the kind of typical haha companion jokey way. It's more like, it does feel like, a grandson teasing their granddad.
Well, another thing that I think needs exploring, and again, that sounds like another thing I'm criticizing. What life did this Alex lead? Because in the volume he references how he's half Time Lord, half human on his mother's side, because of Susan and David.
Exactly, and
But where's he from? Is he from, like, he knows about the Time War quite well? Is this just a version of the Time War where, because the Daleks
is this a version? Is this a version where like to the death happened, but he just didn't die in it?
Well, this
like,
is the
did
thing
he
I'm wondering.
experience that? This is the thing. On one hand, like you, I'm a bit sad. It's a two-part volume, but at the same time, if it does like go into this a bit more, I'll be really excited because I'm very interested in like Alex and everything like that, because we know very likely we're going to have to see a moment where the Eighth Doctor's going to have to say goodbye to him, and whether that's just Alex gets to go off and do his own thing, or he is going to be erased again or something, we don't know. So there is that sense of dramatic irony that we know by the time of Night of the Doctor, there is no Alex. So,
yeah. But yes, many questions. Again, the difficulty is this is a part 1 volume, so it's difficult for us to comment, isn't it?
Yeah, we can give like we can give plenty of criticism, but like you said, we could sit here and we could be like, this doesn't make sense. Very next episode gets explained.
Well, that's the thing. The first episode of Time War 6 could very easily clear up all of these worries.
Yeah, it could literally have Bliss in it and show the events that led to it. All I'll say is if this is the end of Bliss, I hope she comes back for like one more thing, just to give her a proper goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully it's not. Hopefully, by the end of this 2-part, Bliss will be back or something. But if not, I think she just deserves a proper goodbye.
I agree.
Yeah, on the whole, I think we can agree. The weakest Time War volume, but still a very good volume.
100% agree.
Just because we have some criticisms, again, our criticisms could completely change by the time the second part of this comes out. But
yes,
we did enjoy it. We have some issues, but it's sort of like how I said with the last box set. I wanted it to be where you see Liv and Helen leave. They didn't, and yes, while I'll say that's a criticism to me, it doesn't mean I hate the characters. It's like this. I don't hate Cass. Just because I'm saying I want Bliss back doesn't mean screw Cass or whatever. No, but
what's the thing? It's just, I think, number one thing is we've not been given any opportunity to say goodbye to the character. She's just stopped. That's my issue with it. Why do 4 volumes with her and then just have her disappear?
Well, hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully we'll get something. But I think
exactly. I'm hopeful for that as well.
No, but I get what you're saying. As someone who has binged the entire Time War series, or been following the Time War series, and you get to this, you are just going to sit there and think, "Oh, okay." Because I think there's always that worry with Big Finish, and again, this happens with any production. But when they take gaps and show like other characters, you can't help but wonder: are we going to see these characters again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, a good example is the Alex McQueen Master. A lot of people are wondering, is we ever going to see him again? And we hope so, but we might not. And actors get busy, actors go and do stuff. But I mean, I don't think it's wrong for us as fans to want to see these characters again.
No,
or at least want conclusions.
What's the thing? If someone told me, yeah, Bliss is gone, but we've done a final story with her or a final scene or something, I just need something.
Closure. And I think with what they were doing with Bliss, because here's the thing, with Bliss, she struck me as a companion that I couldn't see leaving the TARDIS willingly.
No.
Especially because in the greatest respects, that is her life essentially now. She has no past, she has no history anymore. She just has the Doctor and the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel there's a lot you could do with that, and that's why... Again, I'd love it if she has to interact with Cass. Like the two sort of timelines merge, because this feels like to me this is a different timeline. Or at least, something's caused a different timeline to branch out.
Yeah.
Like there's been an alteration.
Oh, actually, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think his coat looks different?
I was thinking that in the cover. It looks slightly... It reminds me slightly of the one from Time Lord Victorious, the slightly bluish.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought he looks like... You look at it and you see all the elements there, but it's different.
It could just be the lighting, but I did think that immediately when I saw it. I was like,
Well, I'm looking at the other covers, his coat is, and it could be again the way that it's very colourful, but his coat is not that blue.
True. Also, I'm saying this now while we're on it. I absolutely adore the cover art.
Oh yes, 100%. This was the first one I think they announced with the new logo.
It works. I know a few people have been iffy with the new logo.
I'm not iffy with the new logo. I'm iffy
with its implementation. I should say.
I feel like it needs the little subtitle saying "Time War."
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Because they all look the same otherwise. The logo, I think, looks great. I've seen a couple of other people put in ideas that they should actually have different variant colours of the logo for each range. Like a kind of bronze,
I agree with that.
A kind of bronze orange for Time War, for like the fires of the Time War. Reds and greens and everything for other, depending on the colour of the cover art as well. But in those ones they've done as well, there is text underneath it that would say something like the 9th Doctor Adventures or the 10th Doctor Adventures. And I just wish it could say something here. Considering that this is the one cover art that you're given.
I do miss the days of individual covers for box sets, I won't lie.
I really do, but it's a price thing, sadly.
Oh, I completely understand why. Practically it's a lot easier, but I do miss the different covers.
I do as well. It's become a very big rarity now. It's about also how much money you can make back. That's why the 9th Doctor can still have individual covers, because they make a lot of money. Meanwhile, a lot of the others have just kind of honed back on that. Like Diary of River Song used to have individual covers. Unit did. And then, they just don't anymore.
Are we getting old?
Yes.
Oh, that's sad.
I think that's everything we have to say about the volume, isn't it? Otherwise we'll just sound like a broken record going around.
Yeah, because like we said, it's hard to go into it because, like you said, there's no story here I dislike. I think it's a very strong volume. Like maybe the weakest out of the Time War stuff, but still a very strong 8th Doctor volume. But like you said, it's very hard for us to go in and criticize it fully when we don't know how this is going to end now.
Yeah,
because obviously we have a lot more building up to it.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, no,
indeed.
I look forward to it. I have no clue what we're going to review next month though, because we have a lot to choose from next month.
Yes. I get the feeling that we'll be spoiled for choice.
We have 9th Doctor. We have the 3rd Doctor with Jo Jones. So much, good sir. So much.
I mean, I can't believe you didn't say the 1st Doctor.
I mean, oh God, that is next month, isn't it? I thought that was March for some reason.
How could you do this?
I'm sorry, sir. Forgive me.
I'm afraid I can't.
Wait, Connor, put down the laser screwdriver. Connor, no!
Welcome back to the podcast. That's a lovely segment with Chatters and George. I've heard none of it, FYI, but Chatters is a lovely man, and George is a lovely man, and so together they're two lovely men talking about Paul. And I think, for the most part, that is done for today. That's us. That's us all wrapped up for this podcast. It's been a bit of an odd one, just me. You've just got to listen to my beautiful voice for however long this is, probably over an hour and a half. So, whoops, soz. But it's been lovely. It's always fun doing these and coming on and just being able to talk for a bit. Next month, hopefully, Connor will be back. I think next month, what's up in March? Is it Torchwood? I think it's Torchwood. So we'll be back in March to talk about Torchwood, I think. Which is always exciting. We love Torchwood. But for this month, for February, wow! Already the second month of 2023. Imagine that. That's insane. That is insane. Second month already. Wow. Christ, that's gone. It's gone past very fast. This year will be over before we know it. But yes, that's it for February's podcast. Quickly, I took down the names of who the Patreons are. I have no idea if we've got any new ones or if we've got any less ones, but these are the ones that Connor mentioned last podcast, so I wrote them down. Here we go. Special thank you to our Patreons, Anya Coyle, Peter Scott, TT Productions, Chelsea Lagan, Delta FX, and Joe Eddings. Yeah. And so I will see you next month. Hope you guys have a splendid month and enjoy the Crimson Hunter Volume 4. And just enjoy your month in general. You're alive. You know, you're alive. Go out, live, enjoy everything. Enjoy everything. You know, life shouldn't be wasted. It should be lived. You should experience everything. And so, you know, as time marches on, you've got less and less time. So just go out and just live. Just do what you want to do. And I hope this month brings you all that you want, and you're able to do as much exciting and incredible stuff as you're able to do. Because you deserve it. Every single one of you, everyone who's listening to this, deserves to be able to go off and have a great life. And so, yes, have a great month. We'll see you next month. And yes, farewell. Chatters, roll the credits!